Alternative ending: reincarnation of the strongest sword god. Chapter 81 Hell Modes Evaluation. Everyone gaped in shock at the damage Shifeng dealt. Big Sis Qunliu, didn't you say that the guild leader was only a tier 3 half-step refinement realm expert before? Are you sure he's not a half-step domain realm monster instead? Happy Snow asked as she looked toward So Qunliu dubiously. She could more or less accept that Shifeng possessed a monodomain. After all, a monodomain was the product of having superb control over mana. However, the 8 extreme slashes technique was an advanced combat technique that even sword-wielding tier 5 experts had difficulty executing. Any expert capable of executing this technique below tier 6 was more than qualified to compete for a spot among the 8 swordmeisters. So Qunliu was momentarily rendered speechless. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry in this situation. The little girl beside her had never doubted her words before today. Yet, this was already the second time she had questioned her today. However, rather than getting angry, So Qunliu was ecstatic at being questioned. If she were to point out what was most important in God's domain, she would have only one answer: experts. It was especially true for monster-caliber experts capable of fighting thousands by themselves. Why could Shadow never become a first-rate guild after developing in God's domain for a decade? Why could So Qunliu's adventurer team never enter the ranks of well-known adventurer teams in the Black Dragon Empire? The answer was simple. It was because they lacked a truly powerful expert to protect the guild's interests. Take tier 6 god-ranked experts, for example. Even if a guild had only one tier 6 god-ranked expert and 0 refinement realm experts, it would be publicly recognized as a top-tier first-rate guild, and even the various superpowers wouldn't dare to mess around with it for no good reason. Zero Wing might be a new guild right now, but so long as it had a half-step domain realm expert like Shifeng leading it, it'd have no trouble rising through the ranks of God's domain at all. At this time, apart from So Qunliu, the other members of So Qunliu's adventurer team also grew excited, their confidence in Zero Wing's future skyrocketing. Meanwhile, when Shifeng saw that everyone was still staring at him idly, he couldn't help but shake his head and smile helplessly. Then, he asked, "How long are you guys going to continue watching? Can you start fighting the boss now?" Shifeng wasn't surprised by everyone's reaction to his show of strength. On the contrary, this was the effect he wanted. After all, a guild's leader needed to be someone that members could put their trust in. Although So Qunliu had joined Zero Wing with her adventurer team, the loyalty of her adventurer team's members remained with her, not him. If he wanted to have these experts follow his orders willingly, he needed to let them understand his strength. Otherwise, he'd have a challenging time ahead of him as Zero Wing's guild leader. After Shifeng finished speaking, everyone promptly recovered their senses and began attacking the twin-headed destruction snake. Moreover, nobody showed any resistance toward Shifeng's orders any longer. Now, everyone followed his orders with respect and expectations. Meanwhile, with So Qunliu and the other refinement realm experts joining in, the team quickly sealed all 8 of the boss's eyes of destruction. Now, everyone simply needed to give their all in attacking the boss without having to bother about anything else. Speed up the damage output. The boss's recovery speed will only increase as the battle progresses. All melee players pay attention to the boss's tail swipe and magic attacks. Shifeng issued commands to the team one after another while repeatedly destroying 4 of the 8 eyes of destruction. In reality, Shifeng was more than capable of handling all 8 eyes of destruction by himself. After all, not only did he have his experiences as a tier 6 sword god in his previous life, but his strength attribute had also reached the tier 4 threshold already. The twin-headed destruction snake's mental attacks were no trouble to him, either. These mental attacks might affect other players, but they were no different than a gentle breeze to him. The threat level of these mental attacks wasn't even comparable to that of the boss's tier 4 skills and spells. However, when considering Zero Wing's future development, Shifeng decided to use the twin-headed destruction snake to train everyone. After all, Opportunities for players to come across mental attacks in God's domain were few and far between. Meanwhile, players could develop their concentration standard by a certain extent when defending against mental attacks. Thus, it was fine even when Sokyun Liu and the others slipped up and allowed the other four eyes of destruction to regenerate from time to time. Their mistakes would allow everyone to experience the boss's mental attacks. Then, everyone could figure out ways to adapt or resist these mental attacks. Subsequently, time passed by quickly. Without realizing it, everyone had already fought against the twin-headed destruction snake for over an hour and whittled the boss's HP to just 10%. When the boss's HP reached 10%, it also entered a berserk state. Although its basic attributes remain unchanged, it started releasing AoE mental ripples even with all 8 of its eyes destroyed. Although these Tier 4 mental ripples weren't as powerful as the direct Tier 4 mental attacks from before, they were still very effective against Tier 3 players. While subjected to stinging pain in their mind and body, everyone couldn't exert more than 50% of their combat power. This situation forced everyone to find a way to defend against the mental ripples while attacking the twin-headed destruction snake. As a result, the fall of the boss's HP slowed down significantly, and casualties also began appearing one after another. Meanwhile, faced with this dangerous situation, everyone's minds became even more focused, which, in turn, subtly improved everyone's concentration standard. Eventually, though, the twin-headed destruction snake still fell under everyone's attacks, and countless particles of holy light started raining down from the sky, brightly illuminating the dusky sky. We won! We did it! Awesome! We actually got the first clear of a Hell Mode Ancient Demon Court. The surviving members of the team collapsed to the ground and cheered when they saw the light shower and the twin-headed destruction snake's corpse. At this time, even Sokyun Liu had a hard time believing that they had completed the raid. On the main continent, ancient demon courts were the various superpowers' exclusive playground. Although first-rate guilds could also raid an ancient demon court, several first-rate guilds would need to work together to do so. Yet, now, their newly established guild had just raided an ancient demon court. Moreover, it was even a Hell Mode Ancient Demon Court. While everyone was cheering in celebration, a golden glow enveloped many players in the team as these people leveled up from 104 to 105. As for those who were originally at level 105 already, they saw their experience bars filling up by a large margin. The amount of EXP the twin-headed destruction snake gave was enough to make up for 2 days' worth of solo grinding. At the same time, the system's mechanical voice also entered everyone's ears. System, congratulations! Zero Wing has obtained the first clear for the Hell Mode Ancient Demon Court. Rewarding all participants with 10 miniature Ancient World Reputation Points and 5 Legacy Skill Points. Loot quality upgraded by 1 rank. Guild's World Reputation plus 500. System, raid evaluation for the Hell Mode Ancient Demon Court is S rank. S rank. Crap. We got an S rank evaluation. Blackie couldn't help but rub his eyes in shock when he read the pop-up notification before him. Am I dreaming? No way. Fire Cloud was also thunderstruck after he took a closer look at the system notification. It really is an S rank evaluation. The Ancient Demon Court had 5 evaluation ranks, D, C, B, A, and S. However, even when raiding the hard mode Ancient Demon Court, the various superpowers could usually only obtain an A rank evaluation. Yet, now, their team had obtained an S rank evaluation for Hell Mode. This situation simply felt unrealistic. Of those present, only Shifeng found this outcome normal. The Ancient Demon Court's evaluation system was based on 2 main criteria, time and casualty count. For the first criteria, the average clear time for the Hell Mode Ancient Demon Court was around 16 hours, so their clear time of under 12 hours was considerably fast. For the second criteria, a team would receive an excellent result so long as the number of deaths did not exceed 200. The fact that they were the first team to clear this Hell Mode Ancient Demon Court also added bonus points to their evaluation. Thus, it wasn't impossible for them to acquire an S-rank evaluation. Chapter 82 Astonishing Reward. When the system notification ended, hundreds of items started raining down from the sky. Every one of these items radiated a dazzling golden glow, some of them even radiating a purplish golden glow coupled with a frightening amount of mana. In a matter of moments, the several hundred items reached the ground and formed a small mountain in front of everyone. Meanwhile, when everyone saw these items, their mouths watered, and their eyes turned red. So, this is the loot of a Hell Mode Ancient Demon Court. When Blackie saw the many epic items and several unidentifiable items among the mountain of loot, his eyes widened in shock. I doubt even a superior mythic's loot can match 10% of the loot here, Happy Snow commented, her eyes glowing in excitement as she looked at the loot mountain. When their adventurer team had been operating in the Black Dragon Empire, the strongest boss they had fought was a superior mythic. However, the quality of the loot that superior mythic dropped was nowhere near being a comparison to the twin-headed destruction snake's loot. Even without checking the exact quality of the items dropped, she could already tell just how amazing the dropped items were simply through the intensity of the mana they radiated. The mana the several unidentifiable items radiated was especially frightening. There was no way these items could be mere epic items. This left them with only one possibility. Fragmented legendary items. Even after their adventurer team had fought hard in the Black Dragon Empire for many years, they had not obtained even one fragmented legendary item before. Yet, now, as many as 4 fragmented legendary items have dropped. We really hit the jackpot this time. Shifeng also couldn't help but grow excited when he scanned the items on the ground. This was because he had noticed 2 familiar items among the pile of loot. One was the key to the ancient demon court's outer gate, and the other was the teleportation stone for the inner zone. Both these items were crucial in taking control of the ancient demon court. With these 2 items, he could turn this ancient demon court into Zero Wing's private playground, and there would be nothing outsiders could do about it. Immediately, Shifeng stepped forward and collected these 2 items. But these 2 items I have never seen before. Shifeng collected the 2 other items that radiated a frightening amount of mana. Of the 2, one was a dark grey crystal inscribed with runes, and the other was a sealed wooden box. Having never seen the 2 items before, Shifeng used appraisal eyes on them. How is this possible? Shifeng instantly lost his composure when the 2 items' stats appeared before him, his eyes colored with shock. Did something good drop, guild leader? Blackie curiously asked when he noticed the shock on Shifeng's face. No, these aren't just good items. These are priceless treasures. Shifeng said, laughing as he looked at the 2 items in his hands. If these 2 items were merely fragmented legendary items, Shifeng would have only been a little excited. However, the identity of the 2 items before him had completely exceeded his expectations. Any one of them could cause the entire God's domain to go crazy. The dark grey crystal was named the Settlement Rune Crystal. Although this item did not have a rank, it was a priceless treasure in the miniature ancient world. This was because this crystal could be used to summon an ancient settlement in any location in the miniature ancient world. At this time, the various powers of God's domain had yet to even find a place to settle down in the various NPC cities, let alone establish a foothold outside of NPC cities. So, the value of an ancient settlement went without saying. As for the item sealed inside the wooden box, it was similarly an amazing item. The ancient mana equipment set design. Unlike the mana equipment set he currently wore, the set recorded in this design did not have its stats restricted to Tier 3. Instead, it followed the rank system of mainstream equipment used in the Greater God's domain. The design recorded the production method of 2 sets. The first set was a dark gold ranked 8-piece set that could be used from level 100 to level 120, while the second set was an epic ranked 8-piece set that could be used from level 100 to level 150. The main material used to produce the dark gold set was magic crystals, and 1,000 magic crystals were needed for each production attempt. As for the supplementary materials needed, although they were rare, they weren't particularly expensive. Overall, it'd take only around 100 gold to gather one set of secondary materials. Although the Dark Gold mana equipment set's basic attributes couldn't compete against the Tier 3 mana equipment set, the bonuses the Dark Gold set provided was slightly better. Moreover, the Dark Gold set was a good fit for the miniature Ancient Worlds environment. If players equipped the set, they could significantly extend their activity time in the fields. If he could equip everyone in the guild with a set, it would boost Zero Wing's speed of development. Blackie, once you head back, see if you can recruit a few Master Forgers and Master Alchemists into the guild, Shifeng said after giving the matter some thought. The conditions are negotiable, but make sure to keep everything confidential. Master Forgers and Alchemists. Blackie was a little confused by Shifeng's request. However, he still nodded and said, "Okay, I'll try to find some afterward, but don't get your hopes up. After all, you know how it is with lifestyle masters. Every one of them has a high status in God's domain. It's fine so long as you can get in touch with them," Shifeng said, smiling. Afterward, Shifeng had Sokyun Liu and the others sort out the remaining loot, the harvest exciting everyone for a long time. The twin-headed destruction snake had dropped over 300 items. 8 were epic items, of which 3 were weapons and 5 were equipment. The weapons were a staff, a short sword, and a longbow. All 3 epic weapons could be used from level 100 to level 150. Although not as much as the Tier 3 mana equipment set, Blackie and the others still saw a significant improvement to their combat power when they equipped the epic weapons. Apart from the epic items, the boss had also dropped various legendary and inferior legendary materials. These were all crucial materials in producing epic weapons and equipment. However, compared to the weapons, equipment, and materials, what truly excited Sokyun Liu and the others were 3 flutes. "This dungeon is simply amazing. I can't believe it drops fine gold and dark gold mounts," Fire Cloud exclaimed, his eyes glowing as he looked at the 3 differently shaped flutes in Sokyun Liu's hand. Mounts might not be considered rare on the main continent today, but the miniature ancient world had only opened recently. So, mounts were practically non-existent here. Players were incapable of flight before they reached Tier 4. And even if they could fly, they couldn't fly very fast or long. However, if players managed to acquire a mount, they could increase their travel speed several times without worrying about stamina consumption. Aside from traveling, mounts could also be used to improve a player's overall combat power. It was especially true for mounts at the fine gold rank or above. A fine gold mount might not have superb combat power when summoned, they could provide buffs to players, increasing their combat power by at least 20%. Naturally, a dark gold mount would be even stronger. Meanwhile, out of the 3 mounts that the boss had dropped, 1 was the dark gold ranked Thunder Wolf, and 2 were the fine gold ranked Shadow Panther. "This panther looks so cute. Guild leader, can I have one please?" Happy Snow begged Shifeng coquettishly after seeing the sample images of the Shadow Panther. Happy Snow did not ask for the dark gold ranked Thunder Wolf since it would naturally go to Shifeng. After all, as the guild leader, Shifeng was the face of Zero Wing. It'd be strange if he used an inferior mount or no mount at all. However, it was a different story for the fine gold ranked Shadow Panthers. "Brothers before hoes, guild leader," Blackie hurriedly said. He wouldn't have cared who the Shadow Panthers went to if they were on the main continent. However, in the miniature ancient world, a fine gold mount was a powerful tool for leveling. Surprisingly, Fire Cloud also nodded in agreement with Blackie. He could concede on any other item, but he absolutely would not concede on the cool-looking Shadow Panthers. Seeing that everyone wanted one of the Shadow Panthers, Shifeng chuckled and said, "Since everyone wants them, we'll have the top 10 contributors this time roll the dice. That'd be fair for everyone." Everyone readily accepted Shifeng's suggestion, and the top 10 contributors after Shifeng promptly rolled the dice. After several elimination rounds, the winners of the two Shadow Panthers were Blackie and Sokyun Liu. However, Sokyun Liu had given her Shadow Panther to Happy Snow, causing the young girl to grow ecstatic. "Alright, now that we've gotten everything we came here for, it's time you follow us back to 100 Flow City," Shifeng said as he looked at Sokyun Liu. "We'll leave Rock Devil City alone for now and come back to develop there in the future." Sokyun Liu and her companions did not have any objections toward Shifeng's arrangement. They had yet to settle down in Rock Devil City, so it didn't matter even if they changed bases of operation. Afterward, Shifeng led everyone through the portal that had appeared after the boss's death and teleported out of the ancient demon court. Chapter 83 Zero Wing. Meanwhile, outside the ancient demon court, chaos had ensued. Not long ago, the glory tablet outside the ancient demon court had suddenly displayed that Shifeng's team had cleared the hell mode ancient demon court, the tablet listing the names of the players on the team and the guild the team was affiliated to. Meanwhile, everyone outside the ancient demon court momentarily fell silent upon seeing these names. Zero Wing? What is this guild? Why have I never heard of it? Don't tell me it's the new guild Sokyun Liu's adventurer team joined. That's hell mode we are talking about. How can a new guild clear it? Could it be a bug? The many experts present couldn't believe their eyes when they saw the name of the guild displayed on the glory tablet. With their team's strength, even clearing normal mode is going to be a challenge, so how did they manage to clear hell mode? Could it be that the ancient demon court's hell mode is only a front? Rain Song wondered as she looked at the pitch-black skull hovering above the entrance portal. Sokyun Liu might have been a Tier 4 expert on the main continent, and her adventurer team might have 4 or more refinement realm experts, but such a team lineup was nothing compared to the various first-rate guilds' main force. If even first-rate guilds like 100 Flower Palace and Nature Hall needed to work together to raid an ancient demon court, there was no way Sokyun Liu's team could raid it successfully. Yet, not only did this insignificant team clear the ancient demon court, but it had also done it on the hell mode difficulty. This situation was akin to a mockery of their two guilds' inability and foolishness. Big Sis Ru, do you think that we might have misunderstood the miniature ancient world's ancient demon courts? Rain Song asked, voicing her confusion to Cleansed Ru. Could it be that the ancient demon courts here are much easier than we believed them to be? We can't exclude that possibility. Cleansed Ru was also feeling a little dazed as she looked at the glory tablet. She had never expected such an outcome, and she couldn't help but regret her decision to remain outside. Setting aside the hell mode ancient demon court's actual difficulty, just the fact that Sokyun Liu's team had managed to clear it was undoubtedly a slap to their two guilds' faces. To make matters worse, they had lost the ancient demon court to an unrated guild under a situation where they had mobilized their best experts. If news of this situation got out, their two guilds would become a joke in God's domain. Had she known this would happen, she wouldn't have wasted time waiting for reinforcements outside. Instead, she would have entered the ancient demon court with one-eyed ghost immediately after Sokyun Liu's team entered it. Alright, what's done is done. There's no use for regrets, Crimson Heart, clad in her sacred white armor, said when she saw Cleansed Ru's regretful expression. As a vice guild leader, the first thing you should do isn't to regret, but to figure out how you can make up for your mistakes. Vice guild leader Crimson is correct, One-Eyed Ghost, who was standing some distance away, said when he heard Crimson Heart's words. Then, he revealed a cold smile as he continued, I have indeed underestimated Sokyun Liu's new guild. However, this is the end of the line for them. I will let them know how foolish their actions are. The team led by one of the 8 Swordmeisters had actually gotten toyed by a no-name guild. If news of this got out, he would absolutely become a laughingstock. The only way he could salvage this situation now was to kill every member on Sokyun Liu's team, take back what was rightfully his, and make the other side into the laughingstock instead. Well said. It's been a while since I've encountered such interesting people. We must take good care of these people and make sure they learn that there are some things that they can't simply lay their hands on. Stalwart Bear said, nodding in agreement with One-Eyed Ghost's words. Then, he looked toward Crimson Heart and said, Crazy woman, my suggestion is for us to use our guild war orders and kill them until they delete their accounts. What do you think? The guild war order was a privilege afforded to all guilds, and it could be used to lock down an entire map. However, the guild war order had limited duration and a considerably long cooldown. If they wanted to lock down a map for a considerable period, they would need to use at least 2 guild war orders. Okay, Crimson Heart agreed without hesitation. Do you think Sokyun Liu lost her mind, Big Sis Ru? When Rain Song saw Crimson Heart and Stalwart Bear agreeing with each other to use their guild war orders, she couldn't help but pity Sokyun Liu and her team. Had she raided with us, she could have more or less acquired some benefits. Yet, she chose to monopolize the ancient demon court right in front of our faces. The Guild War Order was different from magic barriers used to seal maps. Apart from prohibiting teleportation inside the targeted map, the Guild War Order also prevented players from logging out of the game while inside the map. Players would have to walk out of the affected region before going offline. Otherwise, even if players forcibly logged out of the game, their characters would remain in God's domain, and they could still be resurrected, killed, lose items upon death. Moreover, the item drop rate after death would be extremely high. Thus, the Guild War Order could be considered the biggest trump card of the various guilds in God's domain. Unless conflict between 2 guilds had escalated to an unsalvageable point, guilds wouldn't typically make use of their Guild War Order. Now that Crimson Heart and Stalwart Bear had decided to use 100 Flower Palaces and Nature Hall's Guild War Orders, one could see just how angry the two of them were. Cleansed Rue remained silent in response to Rain Song's question. This was because she couldn't understand why Sokyun Liu would make such a foolish decision, either. Did Sokyun Liu really think that her small team could go against their 2 guilds? Or was she so foolish that she had never considered these problems? However, their 2 guilds had long since made it clear how much importance they placed on the ancient demon court. Moreover, since Sokyun Liu had already told them the ancient demon court's location, her only option was to cooperate. Trying to monopolize the ancient demon court in such a situation was simply foolish. It might be fine if she had failed to monopolize the ancient demon court, but if she succeeded, what she had to face next was the wrath of their 2 guilds. Meanwhile, the wrath of 2 top-tier first-rate guilds wasn't something a newly established guild could endure. Faced with such a situation, there would only be one outcome for the new guild: annihilation. Complete and utter annihilation. Yet, for some inexplicable reason, Sokyun Liu had done exactly that. She had given up on cooperating with their 2 guilds without hesitation and cleared the ancient demon court in front of them. Of course, there was another possibility, and that was the fact that Sokyun Liu had never cared about what their 2 guilds thought since the very beginning. However, in Cleansed Rue's opinion, the likelihood of that being the case was minuscule. While Cleansed Rue was immersed in her thoughts, an energy ripple suddenly spread from Stalwart Bear. The energy ripple spread across a massive area, spreading all the way to Rock Devil City and covering nearly half of the city. A Guild War Order. What's going on? The notification says this is Nature Hall's Guild War Order. Is Nature Hall declaring an all-out war against another guild? Investigate. Find out which power Nature Hall is trying to target immediately. The activation of Nature Hall's Guild War Order immediately stirred the various powers based in Rock Devil City, everyone's reactions ranging from curious to fearful. They were curious to find out which power had provoked Nature Hall to a point where the top-tier first-rate guild had used its Guild War Order, and they were fearful that this Guild War Order might be targeted at them. Hence, the various powers based on Rock Devil City promptly dispatched a large amount of manpower to look into the situation. Meanwhile, around 20 minutes after Nature Hall activated its Guild War Order, flashes of light suddenly appeared in front of the ancient demon court's entrance portal one after another. In the blink of an eye, a team of nearly 300 players had appeared in front of 100 Flower Palaces and Nature Halls members. Chapter 84 Confidence? What? They actually dared to come out. Do these people really think that our two guilds will just let them go after they've cleared the ancient demon court? 100 Flower Palaces and Nature Halls members couldn't help but be surprised when they saw Shifeng's team appearing in front of the portal. They never thought that Shifeng's team would dare come out so soon. The foolishness of these people had gone beyond their imagination. An ancient demon court in the miniature ancient world was a resource that even the various superpowers would go crazy for, let alone first-rate guilds like 100 Flower Palace and Nature Hall. In their opinion, Shifeng's team must have long since prepared themselves to make an enemy out of their two guilds, and they must be planning on hiding inside the ancient demon court for some time. After all, the Guild War Order had a limited duration. Even if their two guilds worked together, they could, at most, seal the region for 2 days. Once their two guilds ran out of Guild War orders to use, they would have to switch to using magic barriers instead. At that time, it was entirely possible for Shifeng's team to escape. Yet, now, Shifeng's team had left the ancient demon court less than an hour after clearing it. Wait! Their levels, Crimson Heart exclaimed, a look of shock appearing on her face when she looked at Sokyun Liu and the players around her. Level 105? Upon hearing Crimson Heart's exclamation, the other members of the two first-rate guilds also used their respective identification skills to check the levels of Zero Wings members. Level 105. How are their levels so high? How did they do it? Everyone was shocked and confused as they looked at the levels of Zero Wings members. In the current miniature ancient world, the average level of mainstream players was only level 102. Even the various superpowers monsters were nowhere near reaching level 105. Past level 100, every subsequent level up in God's domain required a significant amount of EXP. Meanwhile, if players wanted to grind by killing large numbers of Great Lord-ranked monsters, they would typically need to do so in a team. This meant that they would have to share the EXP among multiple players, which would reduce their grinding efficiency. Overall, it would take an expert around 3 to 5 days to level up once. Even grinding maniacs would still need around 2 to 3 days to level up once. Moreover, this time would further increase as players reached higher levels. Yet, now, Zero Wings members were at level 105 on average. They were at least 10 days ahead of the various superpowers expert teams in terms of leveling progress. If it were on the main continent, a difference of 10 days would be insignificant. However, the miniature ancient world had only opened recently. Having a 10-day lead was a massive advantage. Zero Wings members could even head to level 110 maps to grind and further widen their advantage. However, 100 Flower Palaces and Nature Halls members weren't the only ones in shock right now. Sokyun Liu and the others were similarly given a shock after exiting the ancient demon court. 100 Flower Palaces Crimson Heart. Stalwart Bear of the 5 Blades. What's going on? Why are there so many Tier 5 experts here? Blackie and the others were both excited and nervous when they saw the two first-rate guilds members that were glaring at them. This was a situation they had never encountered during the many years they spent in shadow. Whether it was Crimson Heart or Stalwart Bear, both were myth-like big hots in God's domain. Under normal circumstances, one would have difficulty meeting even one of them. Yet, now, both of them were gathered at the same location. After including the Frost Flame Goddess Cleansed Rue and One-Eyed Ghost of the 8 Swordmeisters, there were a total of 4 Tier 5 experts currently gathered here. Have these two guilds lost their minds? They sent nearly half of their Tier 5 experts here just to secure the ancient demon court. Do they not care about the situation on the main continent anymore? Sokyun Liu's complexion paled when she saw Crimson Heart and Stalwart Bear. Although she had already expected the two guilds to blockade the ancient demon court's entrance, she never expected them to be this desperate. Not only did they dispatch Cleansed Rue and One-Eyed Ghost, but they had also dispatched Crimson Heart and Stalwart Bear. At this point, the two guilds had practically dispatched half of their combat power to the miniature ancient world. Moreover, they had gathered all of it in front of the ancient demon court. In this situation, even with the help of the Tier 3 ancient mana equipment sets, their team would be unlikely to escape. Level 105? So this is your confidence. After both sides remained silent for a moment, a figure suddenly appeared by the teleportation portal. This figure appeared like a ghost, and the aura he radiated also resembled that of a ferocious ghost. Bathed in this aura, Sokyun Liu and the others felt as if their bodies had been submerged into a quagmire, and they couldn't help but feel suffocated. It seems One-Eyed Ghost has made significant improvements again, Crimson Heart commented when she saw One-Eyed Ghost charging ahead. Then, she turned to Stalwart Bear and indifferently asked, "The footwork he used is the bronze footwork Phantom Ghost, right?" "That's right." Stalwart Bear nodded in delight. Thus far, he and the guild leader are the only ones who have mastered it. With this footwork, he should have no problems getting into the top 3 in the next Swordmeister competition. While Stalwart Bear was talking, One-Eyed Ghost had also executed his footwork again, instantly arriving in front of Sokyun Liu and the others like a ghost. "You have really toyed with our two guilds, Sokyun Liu. It seems all of us have underestimated you," One-Eyed Ghost said as he looked at Sokyun Liu. Then, he unsheathed the blood-red greatsword on his back and coldly said, "But if you think that you can escape from us just because you have a level advantage, then you are sorely mistaken. You have two options right now. The first is to hand over all of the loot and delete your accounts, and the second is for me to kill you until you delete your accounts. Take your pick." As soon as One-Eyed Ghost finished speaking, the players maintaining the magic barrier enveloping the area around the portal also strengthened the barrier's output. Now, apart from reducing Zero Wings members' basic attributes by 20%, the barrier also reduced their reaction speed by 20%. Chapter 85 Determining Superiority in One Battle. Sokyun Liu couldn't help but smile bitterly in her heart when she looked at One-Eyed Ghost and the 100+ refinement realm experts around them. The current situation was completely outside of her expectations. She had never thought that the guild Shifeng created would have such a strong foundation. She also didn't expect Shifeng to set his eyes on the ancient demon court, something which 100 Flower Palace and Nature Hall had already set their sights on, and clear it in hell mode. Every one of these miracles was essentially a provocation for the two first-rate guilds. Although Sokyun Liu could empathize with the two guilds, she really wanted to say one thing to One-Eyed Ghost right now. She really didn't do it on purpose. However, Sokyun Liu also understood that nothing would change even if she said that now. This was because Zero Wing had already acquired the ancient demon court. If Zero Wing wished to retain ownership over the ancient demon court, it would have to fight against the two first-rate guilds. After letting out a deep sigh, Sokyun Liu said in the team chat, "Guild leader, I will distract One-Eyed Ghost with Fire Cloud. I doubt Crimson Heart, Stalwart Bear, and Cleansed Rue would hurry to take action. If everyone on the team scatters and flees, it is unlikely the three of them will pay attention to you. At that time, try to break out of the encirclement. So long as you can break through, our efforts today will not go to waste." Fire Cloud also nodded in agreement. Although they were currently suppressed by a magic barrier, with the effects of their Tier 3 ancient mana equipment set, he should have no problems holding One-Eyed Ghost back for some time if he worked together with Sokyun Liu. After all, they could already exhibit power at the Tier 4 standard with their Tier 3 skills and spells. With him holding the line at the front and Sokyun Liu launching spells at the back, it was entirely possible for them to clash against a monster-level expert like One-Eyed Ghost. Hearing Sokyun Liu's words, Blackie and the others also readied themselves to put their lives on the line. However, after seeing everyone's resolve, Shifeng casually looked at One-Eyed Ghost and said, "No need to go through such trouble. If these are all the forces they have here, they cannot stop me." After saying so, Shifeng started walking step by step toward One-Eyed Ghost. Guild leader. Sokyun Liu was stunned when she saw Shifeng walking toward One-Eyed Ghost. She never thought Shifeng could settle for a frontal confrontation. However, before Sokyun Liu could react to the situation, Shifeng had already moved within 10 yards of One-Eyed Ghost. Meanwhile, Shifeng's words and actions had also surprised the two first-rate guild's members. "We cannot stop you? What bold words you have there, punk!" One-Eyed Ghost's eyes twitched, his expression turning grim as he looked at Shifeng. He never thought that some no-name ant would dare disregard him to such an extent. "It seems you are eager to die first. In that case, I'll grant you your wish." After saying so, One-Eyed Ghost swung his crimson greatsword, sending several crescent blades flying at Shifeng. Advanced combat technique, Fragmented Moon. The vice commander is really mad now. He actually used one of his ultimate moves right off the bat. That's right. With this, that kid won't last more than a move. Nature Hall's members couldn't help but be awed when they saw the crescent blades flying toward Shifeng. Fragmented Moon was one of One-Eyed Ghost's ultimate moves, and it merged 4 sword lights to form one crescent blade. Although One-Eyed Ghost was only at Tier 3 right now, every crescent blade he unleashed carried power at the Tier 4 standard. This move simply wasn't a move ordinary experts could block. Even if a well-equipped Tier 3 berserker received one of these crescent blades with their weapon, they would get knocked back by over a dozen steps. A swordsman like Shifeng would fare even worse if he tried to block those crescent blades. Subsequently, when the crescent blades were about to reach Shifeng suddenly brandished the Winter of Eternal Night. Clang! 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 A series of metallic sounds echoed throughout the cavern. To everyone's surprise, not only did Shifeng shatter the several crescent blades, but he had done so without taking even half a step back. He behaved as if nothing had happened, and he looked at One-Eyed Ghost as if saying, "Is this all you got? Good. It seems you're not all talk." One-Eyed Ghost's expression turned chilly when he saw Shifeng neutralizing his attack. "Let's see how many times you can repeat this." Getting serious, One-Eyed Ghost suddenly transformed into an afterimage. Bronze footwork, Phantom Ghost. For a time, One-Eyed Ghost started appearing and disappearing around Shifeng like a ghost. The afterimages he left behind looked incredibly realistic, making it impossible for others to pinpoint his real body. What speed! Fire Cloud's expression grew heavy as he watched One-Eyed Ghost flickering around the battlefield. Previously, he thought that he could match One-Eyed Ghost for a moment if he worked together with Sokyun Liu. However, looking at things now, he realized that he had been very naive. Currently, he couldn't even keep up with One-Eyed Ghost with his eyes, let alone stop him. Meanwhile, after the afterimages increased to a critical number, they suddenly sent sword lights flying at Shifeng from multiple directions. Is this the strength of one of the 8 swordmeisters? Sokyun Liu felt her scalp tingling when she saw the numerous sword lights striking at Shifeng from different directions. Although she had long since known that there was a big gap in strength between her and One-Eyed Ghost, she didn't think it would be this huge. At this time, she couldn't even keep up with One-Eyed Ghost's movements, let alone fight him. Subsequently, just when the countless sword lights were about to cut Shifeng into shreds, Shifeng brandished the Winter of Eternal Night once more. Boom! Space exploded, and a shockwave enveloped a radius of several dozen yards around the epicenter. Immediately afterward, One-Eyed Ghost's figure appeared in front of Shifeng. His crimson greatsword stopped just half a yard away from Shifeng, unable to proceed even an inch forward. He blocked it. Before anyone realized it, a hint of shock and gravity had appeared on One-Eyed Ghost's angry expression. Even Crimson Heart, Stalwart Bear, and Cleansed Rue couldn't help but be surprised and confused as they looked at Shifeng. One-Eyed Ghost's execution of Phantom Ghost was undoubtedly perfect. When going up against this footwork, unless one possessed extraordinary reaction speed and an absolute perception toward one's surrounding environment, it'd be impossible to stop One-Eyed Ghost's attack. Isn't the guild leader a little too amazing, Big Sokyun Liu? He's actually holding his ground against one of the 8 swordmeisters. Happy Snow exclaimed, her eyes glittering with excitement when she saw Shifeng holding his ground against One-Eyed Ghost. His strength is on par with a Swordmeister? Sokyun Liu also grew ecstatic when she saw Shifeng coming out unscathed. At this point, it wouldn't matter even if they lost this battle and had to start a new account. So long as Zero Wing had Shifeng, it was only a matter of time before it became a first-rate guild in God's domain. Guild leader. As for Blackie and the others, they gaped in shock at this scene, feeling as if they were coming to know Shifeng for the first time. The strength Shifeng previously displayed in the ancient demon court was already plenty surprising. However, the strength he currently displayed was on an entirely different level. This was one of the 8 Swordmeisters they were talking about. Excluding Tier 6 God-ranked experts, the 8 Swordmeisters were the strongest sword-wielding experts in God's domain. Every one of them stood at the apex of God's domain, and they could single-handedly threaten a guild. Yet, now, Shifeng was standing toe-to-toe with a Swordmeister. This meant that he was already standing at the apex of God's domain. In comparison, Shadow and Lan Hailong were nothing but jokes. Chapter 86 One Sword to reach the apex. It seems I have really underestimated you. I did not think a domain realm expert would settle down in a small guild. It explains why Sokyun Liu dared to openly challenge us, One-Eyed Ghost coldly said as he looked at Shifeng's cloaked figure. However, don't you think you are being overconfident if you think you can provoke our 2 guilds? After saying so, One-Eyed Ghost suddenly vanished from everyone's vision. However, unlike before, One-Eyed Ghost's disappearance this time also caused the surrounding mana to grow rampant, and even space itself had started trembling. I want to see how many times you can stop my attacks. After learning that Shifeng wasn't an ordinary expert, One-Eyed Ghost stopped holding back, choosing to unleash his mana domain immediately. Then, in conjunction with his bronze footwork, he activated his Tier 3 legacy skill Blood Shadow Thrust. Blood Shadow Thrust was the fastest sword attack One-Eyed Ghost could execute at Tier 3. Upon activating the skill, One-Eyed Ghost would execute 13 consecutive thrusting attacks, each one faster than the one before. When paired with Phantom Ghost, even Stalwart Bear, one of the 5 blades, wouldn't dare to face One-Eyed Ghost directly. This was because the speed of this attack simply wasn't something one could respond to with a Tier 3 physique. Meanwhile, after One-Eyed Ghost vanished from everyone's vision, the only sign indicating that he was still here were the streaks of red light zipping around the battlefield. 1 streak. 3 streaks. 7 streaks. Each streak of red light that appeared moved faster than the other. Even spatial tiers had started appearing around the battlefield by the 9th streak. When Shifeng saw the 13 red light streaks coming for him, he revealed a faint smile. Then, after entering a casual stance, he started brandishing the Winter of Eternal Night. Swords Transmigration. Immediately, sword lights also appeared around Shifeng one after another and clashed with the oncoming red light streaks. Boom boom boom. Every sword light caused space to shatter and the ground to tremble. The intense shockwaves and explosions gave everyone the illusion that the sky was falling. When all 13 light streaks disappeared, dust enveloped the entire cavern. Then, once the dust settled, everyone could see 2 figures standing on the battlefield. At this time, though, one of them was no longer wielding his sword. Or, more specifically, this person's arm, together with his sword, had fallen to the ground. How is this possible? Everyone was stupefied when the dust thoroughly settled. This was because the person who had lost his arm was none other than One-Eyed Ghost. Moreover, his severed arm wasn't the only injury One-Eyed Ghost suffered. There were also numerous deep cuts covering his body, and his HP had sharply fallen under the 25% threshold, entering a critical level. The vice commander actually lost. Nature Hall's members were in disbelief when they saw that One-Eyed Ghost was heavily injured while Shifeng remained completely unharmed. Although One-Eyed Ghost was no longer as strong as he was on the main continent after entering the miniature ancient world, the techniques and combat standard he cultivated remained. Now that he had also mastered the bronze footwork Phantom Ghost, he could potentially rank among the top 3 of the 8 Swordmeisters. Other than God-ranked experts, there was probably nobody capable of defeating One-Eyed Ghost without taking any damage. Yet, now, not only did One-Eyed Ghost lose to a no-name swordsman, but he had even suffered a miserable defeat. At this time, One-Eyed Ghost also turned to look at Shifeng, his eyes filled with shock. However, a moment later, he sneered and said, "Your skills truly amaze me. This is the first time I have seen someone capable of such swift attacks at Tier 3. Even the top 3 Swordmeisters pale in comparison. However, if you think that you can act arrogantly in front of our 2 guilds just because of that, you should think again. If you don't hand over the ancient demon quartz key, none of you should think of leaving here today." As soon as One-Eyed Ghost finished speaking, healing spells suddenly started landing on him one after another, instantly regenerating his HP back to full. Even his severed arm had regenerated completely. Immediately afterward, the 100 Refinement Realm experts on standby surrounded Shifeng. These people are despicable. I can't believe they're resorting to bullying with numbers after losing a one-on-one fight. Happy Snow said angrily when she saw the many Refinement Realm experts getting ready to fight. "Let's join in as well," Big Sis Kyun Liu. Nodding, So Kyun Liu said, "MHM. Everyone, get ready. We'll try to blast a hole in the barriers afterward." With the guild leader's skills, he should have no problem escaping the 2 guilds' pursuit. With the help of magic barriers and magic arrays, it wouldn't be a problem for 100 Refinement Realm experts to whittle down a Domain Realm expert. It was especially true when both sides were still at Tier 3. After all players had limited mana and concentration. Meanwhile, fighting against Refinement Realm experts was an entirely different experience than fighting against ordinary experts. One would need to combine powerful combat techniques and skills to kill Refinement Realm experts. Meanwhile, doing so would put a huge burden on one's stamina and concentration. Hence, in a situation where one didn't have an advantage in tiers, even a Domain Realm expert wouldn't dare to face 100 well-equipped Refinement Realm experts. Not to mention, Nature Hall and 100 Flower Palace had 4 Apex experts on their side. Just when So Kyun Liu and the others were about to reinforce Shifeng, Shifeng glanced at One-Eyed Ghost and indifferently said, "Me? Arrogant? No, it is you people who are arrogant. Do you honestly think you can do anything against me with just 100 Refinement Realm experts?" After saying so, Shifeng took a step toward the nearest Refinement Realm expert. Then, with him at the center, the mana within a 100-yard radius instantly vanished, the sudden change causing the Refinement Realm experts and One-Eyed Ghost to feel suffocated. Meanwhile, upon sensing the surrounding mana disappearing and his mana domain getting overwhelmed, One-Eyed Ghost couldn't help but be stunned as he exclaimed, "This is a true mana domain." However, before One-Eyed Ghost could make any further reactions, Shifeng had already raised the Winter of Eternal Night. Then, concentrating all of the mana he gathered from his surroundings into the sword, he transformed the weapon into a mana greatsword that measured 100 yards in length and swung it. First sword, Light Shadow. Boom! This was the first time Shifeng had executed Light Shadow after his strength attribute had reached the Tier 4 threshold, and everywhere the Sword of Light passed through transformed into a pitch-black void. Even a Tier 4 mythic monster would suffer serious injuries if struck by this attack. A Tier 3 player would be utterly helpless against this attack. The instant the Sword of Light made contact with One-Eyed Ghost's body, his HP fell to 0 instantly, and even his body had disintegrated into nothingness. Meanwhile, after Shifeng completed his attack, an unprecedented silence enveloped the cavern as everyone dazedly stared at the broken space around Shifeng. Chapter 87 True Monster. He died. I must be dreaming. How can he kill 100 Refinement Realm experts in one move? This must be a dream. 100 Flower Palaces and Nature Halls members couldn't help but doubt their eyes when they saw One-Eyed Ghost and the 100 Refinement Realm experts evaporating from the battlefield. They were aware that massive gaps could exist even between Tier 3 experts. Take One-Eyed Ghost, for example. They were unlikely to beat him even if they ganged up on him. However, even though they couldn't beat him, they could see and understand why they were inferior to him. The current situation, though, was something they couldn't even understand. At this time, let alone the two guild's experts, even Sokyun Liu and the others were flabbergasted by this situation. The attack Shifeng just executed had already exceeded their common sense of what a Tier 3 player was capable of, and it was something none of them had seen before. What just happened, Big Sis Ru? Why couldn't I sense even a bit of mana fluctuation coming from him just now? Rain Song asked as she turned to Cleansed Ru, her eyes filled with shock and confusion. That attack's power was close to reaching the Tier 4 peak standard. How can a Tier 3 player like him unleash such power without using any Tier 3 super skills? Space in God's domain was incredibly stable, and attacks would typically have to reach the Tier 4 peak standard to shatter space into oblivion. Unless a Tier 3 player used a Tier 3 ancient super skill or spell, it should be impossible for them to achieve such power. However, Rain Song had failed to sense any mana fluctuations coming from Shifeng just now. In other words, Shifeng had unleashed that extraordinary attack just now without employing the use of any skills or spells. Instead, he had relied entirely on his techniques to execute that attack. Even as someone who used to be at the peak of Tier 4, Rain Song had never heard of a Tier 3 player being able to execute an attack at the Tier 4 peak standard. He should have used some kind of mana technique just now, Cleansed Ru said, a grim expression on her face as she looked at Shifeng. However, out of all the mana techniques I know, none of them are capable of unleashing such destructive power. You two can stop guessing. That was indeed a mana technique, Crimson Heart suddenly said as she watched the space around Shifeng slowly mending itself. But this mana technique should be a god's legacy. A god's legacy. Upon hearing Crimson Heart's words, Rain Song immediately turned to look at Shifeng, her voice trembling as she muttered, "Doesn't that mean he is?" It is just as you guessed. Look at Shifeng, Crimson Heart's complexion sank slightly as she said, he should be a Tier 6 sword god. Crazy. This is crazy. Why would someone like him come to this place? Rain Song ranted almost frantically as she looked at Shifeng. Tier 6 god-ranked experts stood at the pinnacle of God's domain. Unless Tier 6 gods appeared, they would be near invincible existences. Currently, the reason why so many experts had chosen to abandon their achievements on the main continent and enter the miniature ancient world was so that they could hopefully ascend to greater heights. Even Tier 5 experts were no exception. However, it was a different story for Tier 6 god-ranked experts. As individuals who had already reached the theoretical finish line of God's domain, Tier 6 god-ranked experts did not need to enter the miniature ancient world. After all, no matter how great of a fortuitous encounter they came across in the miniature ancient world, the best they could achieve was to climb back to Tier 6. Rather than waste their time doing such a futile action, they'd be better off doing other, more productive things. At this moment, Rain Song wasn't the only one confused by this situation. Even Cleansed Ru, a Tier 5 expert, was similarly confused. For what reason did a Tier 6 god-ranked expert like Shifeng come to the miniature ancient world? Did he come here to bully noobs because he had nothing better to do? While Cleansed Ru and the others were feeling shocked and confused, Shifeng, who stood in mid-air, turned to Crimson Heart and Stalwart Bear. Then, like a god looking down at a bunch of ants, he asked, "Do you still want to continue?" Even before obtaining the Tier 3 ancient mana equipment set, Shifeng had never cared about any first-rate guild. Now that he had the mana equipment set, the only guilds that could enter his eyes were super guilds. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left the ancient demon court with his team. Meanwhile, upon hearing Shifeng's question, the two first-rate guilds members couldn't help but turn to look at Crimson Heart and Stalwart Bear, anxiety coloring their faces. Previously, they had looked at Shifeng and his team as if they were ants. Now, though, the situation had made a complete reversal, and Shifeng could decide their life and death with just a thought. It should be known that a guild war order was sealing the map they were currently in, so they couldn't log out even if they wanted to. Moreover, Shifeng's team could even freely resurrect them after killing them. If Crimson Heart and Stalwart Bear answered poorly, everyone here would have a bleak future ahead of them. You jest, sir. After a moment of silence, Crimson Heart frankly said, if you wish to leave now, I doubt we'll be able to stop you even if we wanted to. Shifeng's attack just now had already destroyed the magic barrier enveloping his team. At this time, even Sokyun Liu and the others could freely leave the cavern, let alone Shifeng. Hearing Crimson Heart's words, Stalwart Bear helplessly gestured for Nature Hall's members to step aside and open a path for Zero Wing's team. Meanwhile, neither Crimson Heart nor Cleansed Rue was surprised by how decisively Stalwart Bear responded. With Stalwart Bear's personality, he would have fought to the very end if Shifeng wasn't a Tier 6 God-ranked expert. It wouldn't matter even if Nature Hall's team ran the risk of annihilation. He would take his chances so long as he had the slightest possibility of victory. However, the only solution to a Tier 6 God-ranked expert was another Tier 6 God-ranked expert. Without a Tier 6 God-ranked expert on his side, the only thing Stalwart Bear could do in this situation was to take the loss. This was because it was incredibly difficult to topple a God-ranked expert using numbers. If he did that, he would only be worsening his losses. Not to mention, they were currently in the miniature ancient world. Making an enemy out of a Tier 6 God-ranked expert here was no different than courting death. After seeing the two first-rate guild's members opening a path, Shifeng locked the ancient demon court's entrance and said through the team chat, "Let's go." Meanwhile, whether it was Sokyun Liu or Blackie, both of them couldn't help but stare at Shifeng in a daze. Being able to win against one of the 8 Swordmeisters was already an astonishing feat. Now, Shifeng had even wiped out 100 Refinement Realm experts in a single move. Even the legendary experts of God's Domain were probably incapable of such a feat when they were at Tier 3. Chapter 88 Famous. After Shifeng and his team left the cavern, Stalwart Bear couldn't help but turn to Crimson Heart and asked, "What do you think of that God-ranked expert? If even you don't know him, do you think I would?" Crimson Heart said, rolling her eyes. Out of the God-ranked experts and Tier 5 experts capable of reaching Tier 6, none of them resemble him, Stalwart Bear said with a pondering look. "I suspect that he doesn't belong to our God's domain." "Indeed, the possibility is high," Crimson Heart said, agreeing with Stalwart Bear's opinion. There were only so many Tier 6 God-ranked experts and Tier 5 experts with the potential to reach Tier 6 in the game, and everyone belonging to the upper echelons of God's domain more or less knew of these people. So, it didn't make sense that an unknown Tier 6 God-ranked expert had suddenly appeared out of thin air. If that's the case, it might be worth befriending this person. A Tier 6 God-ranked expert not belonging to any local power could become a weapon of mass destruction in the miniature ancient world. If they could befriend Shifeng, once it came time for the various powers to compete with each other, their two guilds could hold a massive advantage in the competition. After all, there was no way any Tier 6 God-ranked expert from the main continent would enter the miniature ancient world. They had much more important things to do than retrain their accounts from Tier 3. "I'm afraid it won't be convenient for Nature Hall to approach that guy," Stalwart Bear said. Then, he turned toward Cleansed Rue and smiled, saying, "I heard that you have tried to invite Sokyun Liu to 100 Flower Palace several times before, Miss Rue. In that case, you should have a good relationship with Sokyun Liu, right? That Sokyun Liu looks like she shares a close relationship with that person, so we will have to rely on you for this matter." "Me?" Cleansed Rue was a little stunned when she heard Stalwart Bear's words. "We can only rely on you now, Rue," Crimson Heart said, seconding Stalwart Bear's words. "Not only did we lose the ancient demon court, but we have also suffered heavy casualties today. If we want to compete with the other first-rate powers, our only hope is to rely on that God-ranked expert. Don't you know Sokyun Liu in the real world? Try to learn more about that person through her. If we can tie him to our boat, you'll be making a big contribution to the guild. Alright, then. I'll try my best, Sokyun Liu said, sighing. Meanwhile, shortly after Nature Hall and 100 Flower Palace removed their guild war order, the various powers investigating the two guilds came to learn of an astonishing piece of news. It turned out that the reason the two top-tier first-rate guilds had locked down a map was because of a newly established guild called Zero Wing. However, after the two sides finished clashing, the two first-rate guilds had kept their mouths shut about Zero Wing and even behaved fearfully when talking about the new guild. Investigate. Find out Zero Wing's origins no matter the cost. It seems Zero Wing isn't some ordinary guild. Notify everyone in the guild to be careful around Zero Wing's members. The various powers based in Rock Devil City had varying reactions toward Zero Wing. Some grew curious, some grew fearful, and some thought of befriending Zero Wing. For a time, Zero Wing's name gradually spread throughout Rock Devil City. While Zero Wing's name was spreading, Shifeng had already returned to 100 Flow City with Sokyun Liu and the others. Guild leader, there are currently 3 first-rate guilds, 8 second-rate guilds, and many third-rate guilds and adventurer teams operating in 100 Flow City. These powers are all fervently recruiting members, and the benefits they offer are very high. With our current lack of funds, I'm afraid it'll be tough for us to attract any new members in 100 Flow City, Sokyun Liu explained, growing a little worried after learning about 100 Flow City's situation. My suggestion is that we lower our entry requirement and gradually train the newcomers from the ground up. We can even fill our guild warehouse while doing so. What do you think? The guild benefits Shifeng had set for Zero Wing were indeed astonishing, and true experts of God's domain would find it hard to refuse these benefits. Normally, if a guild were to offer such benefits, experts would flood to join the guild. However, the problem now was that Shifeng had set too high an entry requirement for Zero Wing. Most experts with the strength necessary to meet Zero Wing's entry requirement would either be an expert belonging to the various large guilds or an expert used to the lax management of adventurer teams. Most importantly, the price to exchange the Holy Annihilation Mana technique was astronomically high. While it was indeed generous of Shifeng to offer such a powerful mana technique up for exchange, the exchange price simply wasn't something the average player could afford. Hence, the mana technique's existence was akin to a display item to most players rather than something they could strive for. In comparison, credits, weapons, and equipment, things that players could use to improve their strength, were much more practical. Unfortunately, Zero Wing just so happened to lack all 3 of these things. What you say does make sense. Shifeng nodded. However, I don't plan to develop Zero Wing into a bloated guild with no substance. It is especially so during the guild's initial development phase. We simply do not have the resources to train a large number of people. But we won't be able to recruit anyone if we don't do that, Sokyun Liu said in exasperation. While Zero Wing's recruitment standards could be considered on par with the various superpowers, Zero Wing wasn't a superpower. It was merely a small guild established recently, and it didn't even possess an ounce of fame in 100 Flow City. Meanwhile, the development of a guild required a large number of players. After all, one of a guild's main sources of income was the completion of guild quests. The more players a guild possessed, the greater the income the guild could generate from guild quests. Then, with the money earned from guild quests, the guild could better itself and attract more players, thereby forming a positive development cycle. After pondering for a moment, Shifeng suddenly asked, "How many gold coins can you amass right now?" "Around 150,000 gold, Sokyun Liu answered after giving the matter some thought. "You're a really rich woman." Shifeng was a little surprised when he heard Sokyun Liu's answer. He didn't think Sokyun Liu's adventurer team would be so wealthy. "That's the money my adventurer team saved up over the years. If not for the land we rented in the 1,000 Stars Tower, we could have had 300,000 gold right now," Sokyun Liu said, sighing ruefully. A wealth of 150,000 gold coins might seem like a lot, but in a large NPC city like 100 Flow City, that money was chump change. This was because even the smallest guild residence here would cost 100,000 gold to purchase. In the case of medium and large guild residences, their prices started from 500,000 and 1 million gold respectively. This was also why she had sought the capital investment of those several corporations. 150,000 gold is already enough, Shifeng said, chuckling. What I need you to do now is to convert all these coins into magic crystals. Try to convert as many as you can. Magic crystals? Didn't we get over 10,000 magic crystals in the ancient demon court just now? Sokyun Liu asked in confusion. For a small guild, a sum of 10,000 magic crystals was already a significant amount. It was absolutely more than enough to sustain a small guild of several thousand members for some time. That amount is far from enough, Shifeng said, shaking his head. However, he didn't bother explaining his goals. Instead, he said, anyway, just try to exchange as many magic crystals as you can. I'll pay you back twofold afterward. If it was before clearing the ancient demon court, Shifeng might have followed Sokyun Liu's suggestion for the sake of keeping Zero Wing operating normally. However, the situation was different now. The most profitable way of earning money in God's domain would definitely have to be operating a settlement. It was also why the various guilds sought to operate their own towns and cities, with some even going as far as to attack and take over NPC cities. Now that he had obtained a town rune crystal from the ancient demon court, he naturally didn't have to follow the standard development path for guilds anymore. While a town might not be as profitable as a guild city, the amount of money a town could generate still far surpassed that of an ordinary large guild. Chapter 89 Small Guild? 100 Flow City, Teleportation Hall. At this time, 3 players geared in level 100 dark gold equipment sets walked out of the teleportation hall and entered the restaurant opposite the Candlelight Hotel. Then, while having a light meal, they scrutinized the Candlelight Hotel across the street. If someone were to carefully observe these 3 players, they would find that despite looking only around 20 years old, these 3 players radiated an aura of sharpness and confidence that one would rarely find on ordinary experts. In addition, all 3 of them were half-step refinement realm experts. Is that where Zero Wing's members are resting? A male berserker carrying a spear on his back asked while scrutinizing the dilapidated hotel across the street. Then, a look of surprise flashed across his eyes as he muttered, "What a strange hotel." Although the Candlelight Hotel looked dilapidated and inferior to the other brand new hotels in the city, the number of players entering the establishment was astonishingly high. He had already spotted several players entering the Candlelight Hotel in just 1 minute. Even more surprising was that these people had entered the hotel sneakily and hurriedly. These people would look around their surroundings, making sure that nobody was paying attention to them before swiftly entering the hotel. It's normal for it to be strange. Otherwise, there'd be no reason why the higher UPS of our 2 guilds would ask us to infiltrate the place, right? A female elementalist with a refreshing appearance said, a look of interest appearing on her face as she looked at the Candlelight Hotel. That's right. The last of the trio, a robust male shield warrior, nodded. Then, in an excited tone, he said, so long as we can join Zero Wing and become Zero Wing's core members, we'll be able to join the ranks of executives and receive priority training from our guilds. I really don't know what the higher UPS are thinking. Why would they have us of all people infiltrate a guild? Shouldn't this job be left to those outer elite members, the berserker youth said, a pondering look on his face. It's excessive to do this even for another first-rate guild, let alone a newly established guild. The 3 of them ranked among the top 5 of their respective guilds' new recruits this year. They were also graduates of top-tier God's Domain academies. Yet, instead of providing them with proper training, their guilds had tasked them with infiltrating a newly established guild. Even the various superpowers wouldn't dare to take such an extravagant action. Why are you thinking so much about it? the female elementalist asked as she glanced at the berserker youth. Then, she happily said, judging by how suddenly the higher UPS gathered us this time, they probably didn't have a lot of time to prepare and decided to have us fresh graduates take on this job instead. Not only do we have a clean resume, but we'll also have an easier time getting accepted as core members in a small guild like Zero Wing. This is a transaction that's beneficial to our guilds and ourselves. Rather than complain, we'd be better off trying to finish our task as quickly as possible. The robust shield warrior nodded, expressing his agreement with the elementalist. I guess you're right. After thinking it over, the berserker felt he might have been overcomplicating things. In that case, let's finish our meals and hurry inside. The sooner we join Zero Wing, the sooner we'll be able to finish the higher UPS task. Afterward, the trio quickly finished their meals, replenishing their stamina and concentration back to full. Then, they crossed the street and entered the Candlelight Hotel. However, the moment the trio entered the Candlelight Hotel, they couldn't help but be startled. What dense mana! Although the mana outside was already plenty dense, the density of the mana inside the Candlelight Hotel was even more terrifying. Standing inside the hotel made them feel like they were standing inside a cloud of mist made up of mana. Their thoughts became much clearer and calmer as soon as they entered the building. How may I help the three of you? Blakeana the NPC asked with a smile when she saw the trio entering the hotel. We are here to join Zero Wing, the berserker said, getting straight to the point. Very well. Zero Wing's registration booth is over there, Blakeana said as she pointed at a corner of the lobby. At this moment, there was not a soul standing in front of Zero Wing's registration booth. The only person at the booth was a bored-looking man dressed in a dark grey robe. Judging by the booth's state, it didn't seem like Zero Wing was a guild worthy of two top-tier first-rate guilds' attention. However, the trio didn't put too much thought into the matter. After all, this was their guild's instructions. No matter how terrible Zero Wing was, they still needed to join it. Immediately, the trio approached the registration booth. Are you three here to join Zero Wing? When Blackie saw the three youths approaching the booth, his eyes promptly glowed in excitement. Hours. It had already been hours since he had set up this booth. Yet, not even one person had come forth to ask about joining Zero Wing throughout this time. Now that three people had come forth simultaneously, Blackie was so moved that he was about to break into tears. MHM. The three of us just graduated from our respective academies. We plan to develop in 100 Flow City, so we are looking to join a guild, the berserker youth said, nodding. But the three of us do not wish to become cannon fodder. We want to become core members directly. May I know what the requirement is to become a core member? The female elementalist and robust shield warrior also nodded to express their agreement with the berserker youth's words. In the current state of God's domain, it'd be incredibly difficult for small guilds to recruit new members. It was especially true for graduates of God's domain academies. Even if a fresh graduate chose to join a small guild, they would typically ask to become core members directly. Otherwise, they could simply join a large guild and become an internal member there instead. You want to become core members directly? Blackie grew a little embarrassed when he heard the berserker youth's words. This I'm afraid it'll be difficult to fulfill your demand. Difficult? Smiling nonchalantly, the berserker youth said, you can rest assured of our strength. Our equipment might not look like much, but we are confident in our combat standards. May I know what's the combat standard requirement to become a core member in your guild? Is it the 7th floor's early stage? Or the 7th floor's middle stage? For the typical small guild, players would only need to reach the Trial Tower's 6th floor late stage to become a core member. Even if Zero Wing was a unique case, there was no way its requirement would exceed the 7th floor early stage. Meanwhile, as half-step refinement realm experts, the three of them could clear even the 7th floor late stage. With their current combat standards, they could even become core members in second-rate guilds, let alone a small guild like Zero Wing. In response, Blackie looked at the three youths for some time before awkwardly saying, "Refinement Realm." Chapter 90 Hidden Foundation. The spy trio fell into a daze as they looked at Blackie's slightly chubby body. "What about elite members?" the berserker youth asked. "Refinement Realm," Blackie repeated, scratching his head awkwardly. The trio was rendered speechless by Blackie's words. Didn't this basically mean that only Refinement Realm experts were allowed to join Zero Wing? "Cliff, do you think this person saw through our intentions?" the female elementalist secretly asked through the team chat. It should be known that if a Refinement Realm expert chose to join a first-rate guild, they would immediately be accepted into the guild's main force and given the position of core members. Yet, now, newly recruited Refinement Realm experts could only become elite members in Zero Wing. No matter how she looked at this situation, it was simply absurd. "I don't think so. We were only asking about Zero Wing's recruitment standards. We have never specifically expressed our intention to join Zero Wing," the berserker youth named Dusk Cliff replied. "What should we do, then?" the female elementalist asked in exasperation. "This guild is simply insane." The robust guardian knight nodded in agreement. If he wasn't here on a mission assigned by his guild's higher UPS, he would have cursed at Blackie already. "Refinement Realm? Aren't your standards a little too high?" After giving the matter some thought, Dusk Cliff looked back at Blackie and asked, "The three of us are at the 7th floor's middle stage standard. What position will we be given if we join your guild?" "You can become internal members so long as you accumulate enough guild contributions," Blackie said in embarrassment. If it weren't for Shifeng's maddening requirements, Zero Wing could have more or less recruited some expert players by now. Internal members. The spy trio breathed out a sigh of relief when they heard Blackie's words. At the very least, they could still join Zero Wing with their strength. Had Blackie said that the minimum requirement to join was also the Refinement Realm standard, they would have probably exploded in anger on the spot. Seeing the hesitant expressions on the three youths' faces, Blackie hurriedly said, "Our guild offers excellent benefits to internal members. So long as you become an internal member, you'll get the opportunity to exchange a mana technique legacy that will help you significantly in reconstructing your mana body and reaching Tier 4. Upon hearing Blackie's words, the trio looked at each other briefly before turning back to Blackie, a hint of disdain flashing past their eyes. If it weren't for their guild's request, they would have probably turned around and left already. After all, no matter how they looked at it, the person before them was undoubtedly a scammer. First, it was the absurd entry requirement into Zero Wing. Now, Blackie was saying that internal members could exchange for an incredibly precious resource in God's domain. If they didn't know any better, they'd think that Blackie was recruiting players for a super guild rather than a newly established guild. No, even the various super guilds wouldn't give their recruits the chance to exchange for a precious mana technique. However, despite the disdain they held in their hearts, they still kept up their act on the surface. "Mana technique? Okay. The three of us will join," Dusk Cliff said, pretending to be excited. Meanwhile, when Dawn Moon, the female elementalist, saw Dusk Cliff's performance, she couldn't help but marvel at the man's acting skills and lament over their fate. All three of them were geniuses who graduated from top-tier God's Domain academies. Dusk Cliff, in particular, was even the third-ranking genius among Nature Hall's new recruits this year. Yet, here he was, forced to react excitedly over joining a small guild that was recently established. Afterward, the trio signed a standard contract for Zero Wing's internal members with Blackie, inwardly sighing in relief when they placed their signatures on the paper. They had finally completed the first step of infiltrating Zero Wing with this. Afterward, all they needed to do was think of ways to improve themselves, accumulate guild contribution points, and become core members as soon as possible. Meanwhile, as soon as the three youths signed their contracts, Blackie saw Shifeng walking down from the 2nd floor. Hurriedly, he walked over and proudly said, "Guild leader, look how amazing I am. I just secured us 3 internal members." This person is Zero Wing's guild leader. When Duskcliff and the others heard Blackie's words, they promptly scrutinized Shifeng's cloaked figure. At this time, Shifeng gave off the feeling of an ordinary civilian. If not for Blackie taking the initiative to greet him, they would have thought that Shifeng was merely an ordinary player staying in the Candlelight Hotel. He didn't look like a guild's guild leader whatsoever. 3 half-step refinement realm players. After scanning the 3 youths, Shifeng nodded and said, "That's quite a good achievement for people your age." When Duskcliff and the others heard Shifeng's words, they couldn't help but sneer inwardly. They didn't think that Zero Wing's guild leader would spot similar nonsense to the vice guild leader. While they couldn't be considered the best for reaching the half-step refinement realm standard at 20 years old, they were still top tier among their peers. Not to mention, they could potentially reach the refinement realm at any time, becoming a true expert in God's domain. "Do you have any more questions about our guild?" Shifeng asked as he looked at the trio. "No," Duskcliff said. "In that case, I have a task to give you," Shifeng said. "I have a group of new recruits who have just finished the first phase of their training and require testing. Can the 3 of you spar with them?" "Testing?" Duskcliff inwardly sneered. Rather than testing the training results of Zero Wing's new recruits, he felt that Shifeng was trying to test the 3 of them instead. Even so, he still pretended to be happy as he said, "If it is a command from you, we are more than happy to oblige, guild leader." "Okay, come with me, then," Shifeng said, nodding. Then, he started making his way to the hotel's basement. A magic barrier sealed the Candlelight Hotel's basement, and non-Zero Wing members were prohibited from entering it. As soon as Duskcliff and the others entered the basement, they promptly noticed that the density of the mana here was much higher than even the mana found on the first floor, and they couldn't help but be shocked by this discovery. They didn't think that a small guild like Zero Wing would actually have the means to create such a mana-rich environment. Even the combat rooms found in advanced hotels didn't have such dense mana. No wonder the higher UPS are having us investigate Zero Wing. If we can acquire the method to create such an environment, the development speed of everyone in our guilds will increase by a large margin, Dawn Moon said in realization.